For instance, here in Kenya, they grow most of the roses that are sold in Europe, and they export them. And they're grown around a beautiful, beautiful lake called Lake Naivasha, which is being depleted at an appalling rate.
All done by foreign corporations, huge, great big flower plantations. If they keep doing this, within 5 years it will be a putrid puddle. So here's one of the driest continents on Earth, exporting water, being told by the World Bank to export its water to get its way out of debt. I call this theft. I also think it's a form of murder.
Joan Thorpe Root, the Academy Award-nominated British wildlife filmmaker and African conservationist, lived in Kenya and made great efforts to save Lake Naivasha from being destroyed. Her assassins broke the nearest window to her bed, where she was sleeping. Joan awoke, desperately held her blanket out as a shield and charged the three men. The men fired their AK-47 assault rifles from outside the window, riddling the room with bullets through the lace curtains. 2 bullets struck Joan in the leg, 1 hit her in the hip. Joan crawled towards her bathroom, trying to stop the bleeding with a blanket, but died of massive blood loss.
You don't know when the water would flow. It flows once a week, and you don't know the date, the time, so you are forced to open up the tap. When they open their taps, it's air, and when the air blows through the taps, the meters are running, and they are charged for doing this.
There's a pipe coming up, and between the pipe and the tap, there's a water meter, and you have to pay for an electronic key to get charged up. And you can look at it and you can see the water meter counting every single drop. And as one friend of mine said, I can afford about 2 flushes a month from this thing. That's how expensive it is. You know, they just throw their hands up in despair and they go back to that river that has cholera warning signs on it.
If people don't have money to buy water, they go to polluted streams, they get sick. The state has to pay for their health care. You know, why don't you just use money for the necessary thing and to prevent other things that might come up? If in the house I'm the only one employed and I buy water, I'm going to limit or ration the people who are living in that house. That's why then you get domestic violence. Because now I want to do my laundry, but because my sister is the only one employed, she determines when I do my laundry. You know, parents will take the tokens that they use into making sure that the water can run, you know, wherever they go, maybe to work and all that. And then during the day, kids don't have water. And this other woman who lived in a shack with 2 kids took the token and went with it to work. And the shack caught fire. And there was no water to stop the fire. And even the neighbors are saying, we don't have money to stop hair fire, you know? These projects are taking away our humaneness.
I was in grade 1. I was 6, so I didn't really think about much. I thought the whole world was go to school, don't get your parents too angry. You do a charity project each year at our school. You do your canned food drives, you do your raise money for cancer. That year, you're raising money for developing countries.
And for 1 penny, you could get a pencil. 5 pennies, you could get soup for the day or things like this.
And then she got to a point where she said $70 would buy a well. And then she explained to us, yeah, people are dying because they don't have clean water.
They were just disbelieving that. What do you mean you can get sick from water and that you don't have things to clean yourself with, let alone drink the water?
Then we asked, well, if they want water, how far would they have to go? And she said, sometimes as far as 10,000 steps. I counted the steps it took me to get from my classroom to the water fountain, and I counted 10. She said, yeah, $70 would buy a well, and it would stop it so people wouldn't have to walk so far. So I thought, okay, that sounds like a good idea, so I'll go home to my mom and dad. They have lots of money, right? And the problem would be solved and no one would die anymore. And I thought it was a great plan.
And we thought, oh, isn't that cute? He wants to build a well. Let's make dinner. Because he was so young, we really did not take him seriously. You don't get it. He said someone just died because they don't have clean water and you didn't help them.
After a few days, they finally sat me down and they said, what we can do is give you a chance to earn the money by doing extra chores around the house.
Never ever thinking that he would follow through. And I got a piece of blank paper, drew a thermometer on it, 2, 4, 6, 8, all the way up to 70, to give him a sense of how long it was going to take him to get there.
After, 4 months, I raised the $70. I brought it into an organization that facilitates clean water projects in developing countries. And they looked at me and they said, it's going to cost a bit more than $70 to build an actual well.
And I've always felt bad about telling him that the well wasn't really $70, that it was actually the minimum you could get was $2,000. But I've sort of consoled myself a little by saying that if it had been more, if I'd told him $2,000 at that time, that he never would have gone. That would have been too big for a 6-year-old.
So I started doing public speaking around my community. It slowly grew and grew and grew. The Brian's Well Foundation has been established, and we've helped raise about $2 million, which has gone towards the completion of 266 water and sanitation projects, helping about 500,000 people.
Immediate aid like this is absolutely vital to saving lives. But if we step back, a larger question looms. An uncomfortable question we habitually avoid in our daily discussions. Why do these countries need emergency aid to provide something as basic as water? Why are they unable to build their own infrastructure of clean water delivery? Why are they poor?
Developing countries are forced to grow cash crops, export crops like tea or coffee.
We've got some resources, especially tea, which is really growing all over. The World Bank and the IMF and the other countries, especially the Western world, that buys the tea from our country always gives us a raw deal. You find that we are given so little money for this tea.
The World Trade Organization has required developing countries to remove tariffs so that products can flow in and out of the country because it benefits our corporations. They get cheap products. Now what that means is that developing countries are very hurt.
And it's obscene. It's why these countries can't get out of debt, and it's why these countries can't develop water systems or healthcare or anything else for their kids. And there's a famous Senate hearing where a very senior World Bank official told the US Senate, don't worry, we're not giving money away, particularly for every dollar the United States invests in the developing world through the World Bank. American corporations get back $1.30. Wink, wink. We call it aid, development aid, but really it's forcing countries to open up their resources, and that's why there's such a tremendous reaction against the World Bank in the third world.
If we were to sell this tea at the right price, if we had fair trade in the markets, our tea could fetch enough money that can sustain most of our needs.
It should be a very rich country.
We cannot fight the world water crisis by just saying, let's hook up some more people and hope that does it. We have to challenge the systems that deliberately create winners from losers. And then who cares about the losers? That they're losers, and it's their own fault anyway. That's the system we have to take on, and we will never, 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 never solve the world water crisis until we have the courage to talk about the world political and economic system.
Wherever a river flowing free is now treated as the supplier of raw material as if it was oil, we have the generation of water wars.
The Chinese, the symbol for water, not only means water, it means control, which I think is quite profound in the sense that controlling water is everything.
And the word right